Hi, my name is Jason Scorse, and I'm speaking to you as a concerned citizen today about this upcoming presidential election. I do study public policy and politics for a living, so I think I have a few things that'll be of interest to you. So let's start with the basics here. We essentially have two choices in this election because I don't want to get into the third parties right now since they do not have a legitimate chance at winning. And so let's start with Mr. Trump. So on the one side, we have a racist, misogynist, xenophobic, con man, fraud, despicable human being who made his political career questioning the citizenship of our president, Barack Obama. He inherited his money from his father and is not self-made, has bankrupted many of his businesses, sued multiple people, stiffed many of his contractors, and brags about these bankruptcies and the fact that he gets away with this. So that's who we have on one side of the equation. On the other side, we have Hillary Clinton. She is a former First Lady. She's a former Secretary of State. She's a former senator and has a very celebrated record of public service. But she has her flaws too. And so what are those? Well, she's certainly a little compromised in the sense that she did some speaking fees for speaking for Goldman for high fees. We'll come back to that in a second. She certainly has bent the truth sometimes, and she's not always been completely honest. But let's get a couple things out of the way real quick, though. She has never, ever been convicted of any criminal wrongdoing. She has never been convicted of corruption. And these things about the Clinton Foundation need to be put in perspective, because if you go to Charity Navigator, the Clinton Foundation has a 4-star rating, which is higher than the Red Cross. And so while Trump was ripping people off with his fake Trump University, stiffing single women, veterans, and scamming people, the Clinton Foundation was saving millions of people's lives. So let's just kind of get that out there. But no doubt she has exercised some poor judgment, and she's a flawed human being. So I want to take a step back and just say, how many of us have never lied? How many of us have never lied to even people very close to us, our spouse, our boyfriend, our girlfriend, our parent, our colleague? How many of us have never tried to kind of bend things in their direction for their self-interest, for their betterment? How many of you, if you had ended your public service for a time and was approached by Goldman Sachs and they offered you $250,000 to speak for an hour at a conference, how many of you would have turned that down? So maybe some of you are of the saintly cat class that have that level of ethics that you can strongly consider yourself morally superior to Hillary Clinton. But for the rest of us mortal humans who are flawed and not always truthful, and who admittedly have our own self-interest that motivates us, let's cut Hillary some slack here. Let's be fair to her and say that, she has a celebrated history of public service, but she certainly is a flawed human being like most of us. So that's our choice. Flawed, center-left, celebrated 30 years of public service versus demagogue, racist, fraud, con man. So that's our choices. So what I'm trying to urge you to do here is, even if you don't like Hillary Clinton, I think you should strongly support her. Okay, so that's the point of this talk. Even if you don't like her, you should strongly support her. And I'm going to just list a couple quick reasons why. So let's start with the Supreme Court. This 2 words is really what everybody should imprint on their brain. This is the whole game. This is the deal. If you are like me and you are less than 50 years old, you have never breathed a single breath of air on this planet with a liberal Supreme Court majority. You don't even know what it's like. You don't even have the imagination. You've been on the losing team so much, you've forgotten what it's like to win. And right now, the right wing is trying to steal Obama's Supreme Court. They're trying to make up a fiction that in the last year of a presidency, we don't nominate Supreme Court justices. That is a fiction. They're trying to steal his Supreme Court pick and give it to a potential Trump presidency. So let's talk about what's on the line here. Let's start with voting rights here. The Supreme Court gutted the Voting Rights Act a couple years ago, and when they did so, in dissent, Ruth Bader Ginsburg said it was like holding an umbrella over your head and not getting wet in the rain and saying you don't need the umbrella anymore. That this notion that there's no racism anymore is because of the law, not because racism doesn't exist. And so within 24 hours of the Voting Rights Act being gutted by the right-wing majority, a number of states, all of them Republican-led and all of them in former Confederate states, enacted sweeping voter suppression rules. Okay? And let me be clear, these were not voter protections. These weren't to try to fight voter fraud. These were voter suppression in former Confederate states, all led by GOP. And let's go to 2 weeks ago, what happened in North Carolina. A federal court said that these laws were specifically discriminating, that there's actually on record Republican legislators micro-targeting Democratic votes, whether they're minorities, black students, and suppressing their votes, taking away early voting, taking away same-day registration. And they said these cannot go into effect. Right away, the North Carolina legislature appealed this for an injunction to the Supreme Court and said, please, Supreme Court, let us continue our voter suppression. The Supreme Court, importantly, is in an 8-8 deadlock because of Merrick Garland being held up. The 4 right-wing justices wanted to allow the North Carolina to go ahead with their voter suppression. So just let this sink in. The 4 right-wing justices said, even though it's on record as the Republicans specifically targeting Democrat and minority votes for suppression, that they should go ahead and do it now. So if we get a 5th justice on the Supreme Court from a President Trump, it is likely that they will enshrine into law and state constitutionally that Jim Crow for the 21st century is okay. So that's what's at stake. So if we lose this, democracy is gone. You will have a 5-majority right-wing court that says discrimination, micro-targeting for voter suppression is constitutional. What else is on the line? Environment, women's rights, gay rights, worker protections, prison justice reform. Okay, you want to overturn Citizens United, get money out of politics? Well, Hillary Clinton wants to do that. She's going to nominate a justice who will do that. Donald Trump will not. Money in politics for the next generation. So these 2 things, let me get this clear to people. If Hillary Clinton did nothing besides get that 5th liberal justice and protected voting rights, protected the environment, protected Obama's clean power rule, this would be a huge accomplishment. This would be a game-changing accomplishment for generations, that alone. And also, let's talk about the environment real quick. Donald Trump has stated that climate change is a hoax perpetrated by the Chinese to steal American jobs. Okay, so that's just batshit crazy. Okay, but if he gets the Supreme Court, they will block Obama's climate change rules. Okay, so this is the whole game. And so before I let you off, I want to just mention a couple other quick things. First things, foreign policy. All I need to say is Donald Trump, with his hands on the nuclear codes for 4 years, commanding the most powerful army and military in the world, with ISIS having the biggest recruiting poster in its possible wildest dreams. If you don't think something would go very, very wrong, right? Trump is a weak, insecure person. ISIS will take out all the stops to goad him into an overreaction so that they can get the civilization war they want. If you don't think that's a high probability, you're not paying attention. So last 2 points. Institutions. Imagine a Donald Trump putting an EPA head, putting the head of the Civil Rights Division, putting the head of the Department of Justice. He will gut all of the main institutions of this country. And the final point here is on political violence. We already have Trump supporters beating up people at rallies. We had a Trump supporter in New York, saw 2 Muslim women the other day in veils pushing baby strollers and attacked them. Okay? And so I want to disabuse liberals and people on the fence who think maybe we need a Trump presidency to shake things up. Maybe we need a little, outside the box, and that's going to, help get the revolution we want. Okay? That's bullshit. I want to shout that down loud, okay? Out of chaos and destruction and discord, the right wing rises, not left wing utopias, okay? So get that notion out of your mind, okay? The people running Trump's campaign are your crazy, crazy uncle who sends you the racist emails and the conspiracy theories. Those are the people running his campaign. If those people have their worldview validated and vindicated by getting their guy to be the leader of the free world, they are going to feel emboldened. We are going to see right-wing hate violence like we have never seen before. And I'm a white male. Okay, I'm not going to directly probably suffer from that, but I care about the most vulnerable inside. I care about the women and the Muslims and the immigrants. I care about the kids right now who are being shouted down in their classrooms by Trump supporters saying, we're going to kick you out when Trump is president. We're going to build that wall. Okay, so this is a real deal, people. This is Germany 1933. So on the last point here, you don't have to like Hillary Clinton, okay? You don't have to, and that's fine. There are legitimate criticisms of her. What I'm saying, though, is you should strongly support her even if you don't like her, okay? And you don't have to grit your teeth, okay? This is not someone you want to have a beer with and hang out with. I never got that about presidential politics. This is someone we're voting for the hardest job imaginable in the world. We want a competent, steady hand, someone smart, dedicated to the public interest, who knows the policy details. For all the faults you can say about Hillary Clinton, she certainly meets that bar, and she's not a racist, lunatic demagogue. So again, fine, if you don't like her, that's okay, but you should strongly support her and join the sane people of conscience to get out, support her with some money, register voters, volunteer, make an audio video, share it with your friends on social media. Make sure that we're not looking back next January with a Donald Trump presidency. Okay, so thank you very much and appreciate your time.